right, welcome everybody to episode 17 of the Content Lab podcast. Today we're joined by Renato Fury Macassi. Renato is the owner of Fury Photography, a content creation business that he started over 5 years ago. His business focuses on brand development, mostly in the sports and fitness industry. In addition to that, Renato is currently the U.S. marketing executive of Innovate Training Performance. Innovate Training, is that it?
Innovate training is good.
There you go. Yeah. For some reason, I thought he said performance at the end. Anyways, Renato, thanks you for being on the pod, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
How are you doing today? You said you were in your in-laws office.
Yeah. I'm at the in-laws' house, so we're remote today.
Nice. Yeah. So let's start talking about you. Tell me about your life growing up and how you found photography, which is you do video too, but photography is like your main thing, right?
Yeah, I do video because I have to.
Okay. Yeah. So take me back to your beginnings in the content creation industry.
Well, I started with my dad gave me like a camera when I was younger. I think it was like middle school. That's kind of where it really started. I always saw him with a camera. He had a DSLR. I honestly didn't even know what he would shoot. Like I just saw him with this big thing, and I thought it was kind of cool. So after forever and ever, I would kind of tell him, "Hey, look, let me borrow one, or let me get it." And at the time, it was whatever the price was, and it was expensive. And one day he got a new camera, then he gave me the old one, and then I just started playing around with it. Kind of, I feel like everyone starts off shooting nature. Right? Because it's like accessible, right? You just start shooting trees and all that stuff. And then what was it? So then I went to high school, did classes and stuff like that. And then once I graduated and went to college, I packed all my stuff into a bag and I left it in a closet for since 9 years. So from 2008 till 2017, I didn't touch a camera, or well, at least not like a legit camera. And I was already doing CrossFit, I think for at the time like 5 years from then, from 2012 to 2017. And I was like, all right, well, I already had a couple buddies of mine that like would go to my gym that was shooting stuff. And I was like, oh, let me get mine. Let me see if I like this again. So it kind of all started when I went over to my mom's house, and she's like, "Hey, like, do me a favor, go through your shit in the closet because you don't live here anymore." So literally in the corner of the back of my closet, like you can't go any farther. There's this bag, the old camera bag, and I opened it. I was like, "Wow, it's still here." So I bought new batteries just to see if it was working. I wasn't going to buy a new camera. And I started just shooting in my gym, and I started liking it again. Obviously, this is a camera that is like a POS, right? Like complete rundown camera. Like,
What's the brand and Nikon?
yeah, it was a Nikon. I think D500. I don't even know anymore. Like I have it in my house. I still have it in my house.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just started shooting or whatever, and I want to say it was Wadapalooza of 2018 is when everything kind of blown up because I had my kit lens, right? Whatever that enormous lens is, where it's like from freaking 24 all the way to 300, and it like goes from this big to that big, right? And I just started shooting, and I just started posting stuff, and people started liking them, and that's when I kind of figured, oh well, let me just stick around.
So was that you said 2017? That's when you kind of got started.
September 2017 was when I found that when my mother told me to get the camera, and then it was I guess January or February of 2018, whichever Wadapalooza was.
Yeah, gotcha.
Was the time where it kind of just at the time blew up, right? Like it's people started reposting my stuff, which for me was like wow,
yeah. So kind of what sparked everything was like CrossFit, right? Like you wanted to pretty much just take photos of people at the gym, and from there kind of like pretty cool. That's how most people kind of like in our industry starts, which is It's pretty cool. Frank
Well,
says,
funny enough, I've done like before I even picked up a camera, there were times where I think like once a month I would just drop into a random gym just because, like not even for any type of reason. I was like, oh, I want to go train at this gym.
yeah,
Then I would just look up on Google, oh, I want to train this gym. So I started unknowingly making relationships with gym owners, right? Like, so when I had a camera, it was easier for me to just walk in and be like, hey, look, can I just, I'll work out and then I'll just take a couple pictures just to kind of play and work on my own style.
absolutely.
And then
Um,
it
in
worked out.
those in those years, who were kind of like your influences? Like obviously, like whenever we get started, we always kind of look up to some of the current, I don't know, photographers of the time. Do you remember anybody that you were like, oh,
I
cool?
remember seeing Corey Jenkins, which he's still around, right? Like he does a lot of good stuff. And then there was Busman. I don't know if you remember him. His name is Chris. He doesn't shoot as often anymore, but he's one of the people that I started, seeing his stuff long ago. At the time when I first started shooting, there was Ruel, which is Bacon and PRs. He's still a good buddy of mine. I talk to him all the time. So those were kind of like Ruel kind of helped me the most because at the time I was like, dude, I don't even know how to use any of these new cameras. Like, what am I doing? Um, and it just kind of flurried from there, and I started shooting more. And like I said, after that Wadapalooza event, I realized I needed better gear because it wasn't working for me. I didn't even
Yeah,
know what lenses I should be getting for darker environments and stuff like that. So I think at that time I bought a D750, and then like 6 months after that, I bought another one, and then after I want to say maybe like a year or so, my buddy Ruel again, he's like, dude, you got to try Sony because this is going to be
let's go.
another level for you, right? I said, okay, let me test it out. I tried on his, and I didn't at the time like, and I still am this way. Like I'm cheap, right? Like I try not to spend as much money as I'd like to, but um, at the time I think I had maybe like 3 lenses. And I think even now I only have 4 lenses. But at the time when I had Nikon, I only had 3 lenses, so it was easy for me to switch. Right? I know there's plenty of people that have God knows how many lenses, and it's really difficult for them to switch from one company to another. Um, but yeah, at the time I was like, okay, well, let me see what it's all about. I tried Rose's camera. I freaking loved it. It was crazy. And then I ended up just buying 2A7 IIIs, and I still have those, and I haven't changed them since. So,
I've
but
been
I'll
trying to
probably get A7 IV soon though.
I've been trying to tell Carly to switch to the Sony eventually.
No, she's good where she's at.
No, she's really good. So 2018, you shoot your first competition, Wadapalooza. I remember I saw you, or kind of like I kind of met you in 2019 at the games, and you were already like things blew up quick for you, because I remember when I saw you in 2019, you already had like a good following and people were using your stuff. Like you were well known in the industry. What do you think it like? What like how did stuff happen that fast for you?
Probably being around the right people and a little bit of luck, right? Like even now, all it takes is a couple good reels to go viral, and all of a sudden, right? So at the time, there were no reels; it was just photos or something that someone would repost or go viral. I think that's kind of just whether it was then or now. It's kind of the same thing. Now it's yet last before it was just photos, for the most part, and I didn't really even do any videos since until 2020 is when I started really like playing around with video. But now, like I said, just all it takes is a couple reels, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what worked for me. Just like I said, I just got reposted by a few people, and then it just kind of blew it from there.
Yeah. One of the things I see a lot on your Instagram is you work a lot with athletes. Well, now obviously being a part of Innovate helps, but even before that, you do a lot of shoots with athletes.
Yeah.
Probably people are kind of new to the game, are wondering like, how does Renato get connected with these athletes? Like, how do you get them to hire you? Like, do you have any recommendations, or kind of just tell us about your personal experience just reaching out to these clients? Like, how do you get the job?
A lot of the times, me working with these athletes are usually connected to the brand itself, right? So, here, perfect example. Like, I was already really good friends with Danny Spiegel, because she actually used to train like 10 minutes from here, like my in-laws' house. So that's how I became friends with her before, I even held a camera and stuff like that. And I just had the relationship with her to begin with. And from there, how do I say this? So from there, like I would get hired from other companies, and at the time she was with Innovate. And, I got in touch with Innovate, and, that kind of grew into what it is now. Now, how I get into contact with athletes now is usually, you just kind of reach out to them. There's plenty of times where someone that might be a bigger name, like I get stuck into the DMs or whatever. And from there, if you really need to get something done or whatever, especially when it comes to working with a brand, email them, whatever. You know what I mean? Just don't be annoying, just kind of see if they want to work with you. And if they don't, then, kind of move on to the next one. But like I said, I think it all kind of starts with, if you get in communication with a brand, they usually have the athlete for you most of the time. And then it kind of just snowballs, because if I work with one athlete and they post my stuff and then the next athlete sees it and goes like that, then it kind of just snowballs, and that's how you build a reputation. If you have
For
good
sure.
work, no one's going to ever not want to work with you, right? So if they
Sure.
know that you're producing really good content that would benefit them, they're going to be like, yeah, let's go, let's do it.
And you mentioned Innovate. Like, how did it get to the point that you're now the marketing executive? Is that right?
That's
Yeah,
what they
marketing
call it,
executive.
right? For me, I would rather not even have a title. I'd rather just say, hey, look, just tell me what you need me to do, and that's it. But
Yeah. Tell us since the
uh,
beginning. So you mentioned that it all started working with Danny, right?
yeah, Danny was sponsored by them. She still is. And I remember that being like the first CrossFit shoe back in the day, aside from the Nano. And I was visiting her. I was here with my in-laws, and I just stopped by the gym, and I was like, hey, why do those shoes look familiar? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm sponsored by them now. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna take a couple photos and see if they like it. You just give it to them. Like it was literally like four. Like I think one was her running and the other one was probably doing pull-ups, right? It was literally four photos tops. And they really, really liked it. And I think what was it? The games 2019 is when they said, hey, Danny's competing at the games, come on out. So I went out there. We were all in one big house. It was really fun. It was like a tight knit little family. They're all really cool, just like me, and just kind of built that relationship. And as time would pass, I was just kind of always trying to be involved, right? So I think at the time they were only on Instagram, only posting photos of just like shoes, and then like Danny, and then shoes and Danny, shoes and Danny. And I said, hey, look, like I'm not, you guys can run the business however you want, but you might want to see new blood on this page, right? Because not many people would probably want to see athletes that they know or that are closer to them or that go to their gym. So, you know, um, I would I know plenty of people over time, so it was easy for me to be like, "Hey, Innovate, let's do this. Let's do 12 athletes in whatever 3 months. I'll find the athletes, I'll strategically do it, and then we'll make it work. You let me know how it works out." And it ended up working out. So from there, they said, "Hey, look, let's do the entire year for 2021 with 30 athletes." So that's why I was flying all over the place. And I think 98% of the people that were shot for Innovate, like I found them myself, or either they were people I knew. It wasn't anything. The only thing that they assigned to me at that time was just people that they already sponsored. So that's obviously who they need. But then everybody else was kind of just me, and just they just gave me the keys, and from there it just kind of grew. And they're like, okay, well, looks like he knows quite a lot of people. He can try to get the ball moving, and that's kind of where I ended up now. So.
That's awesome. That's another thing why content creation is so powerful. You know, like you use your skills to help a brand that was an OG brand into, you know, kind of like get back in the game. Because I remember for a while they were not that relevant, right? Until probably like what 2019 ish. That's
Yeah.
when they
So
started. They started like, you know, getting some traction.
yeah. So the story I think was, they were around for a little while, and then kind of ownership changed hands, and then they disappeared, and then they started coming back, and I kind of caught it. I kind of jumped in right when they were coming back, which worked out. So, like I said, sometimes it's just a little bit of luck, right? So,
Yeah,
um, it kind of just worked out right place, right time, and then here we are. So that's it's kind of the goal is to try to bring it back to being like more of a household name.
yeah.
It's kind of difficult when you have you know five other brands that have deep pockets, right? But um, we're trying to push our way through a lot of things. So
For sure. And I was wondering, how do you manage your time? Because obviously you have to travel a lot
yeah,
with this brand that you're not working, but you also have your own business. Like you have Fury Photography, right? And if I understand right, you have like a 9 to 5 as well,
yeah. Well,
and
it's a
a wife and a kid.
yeah.
So
So yes, I have a wife and a kid that my wife definitely sacrifices a lot for me to do what I can do to help support everyone and his family. So for sure. So my full time job that takes up most of my time is I actually work in insurance. So I go to the office, I do that stuff, and um, it's not really Monday through Friday. So I will work on the weekends or whatever because the office is inside a dealership. So from there, if they're selling cars, and that's probably the best time to obviously sell insurance. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm working for Innovate, whether it's doing content for them, um, whether, video, photo, reels, whatever the case may be. And if we have to do strategic stuff, when it comes to like, okay, we should probably go after this athlete, or, maybe we should do this idea for some gyms, whatever the case may be. Um, a lot of that is kind of remote anyway because they're based out of the UK. So, um, for the most part, that's easy to kind of, navigate through as long as everything's kind of scheduled. And then, yeah, I do, Fury Photography, which is like everything else, whether I work for Savage Barbell or any other brand that, doesn't necessarily conflict with anything that I do. So, um, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but you kind of get, you kind of figure out a way to manage things, especially like with my full time job having weekdays off sometimes. Well, I'll have like a random Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's usually like the perfect time that I'll fly somewhere and come back the next day,
yeah,
so I get whatever I need.
yeah, that's awesome. I was thinking about it last night about like, you know, like time management. That's one of the questions I like to ask everybody. And I was thinking like he has a lot of stuff going on, and
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, it is what it is, right? Like you have to make it happen. Um,
Yeah, aside from like unless I'm shooting like the Granite Games or the CrossFit Games or a really big event, like I don't. If I have a day off on the weekend, I'm not doing nothing except
yeah.
like spend time with my family because that's like the really only full day that I would have with them. So that's like 100%.
Do you take today off?
Yeah, so I've been off yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and that's like nothing days. It's been great. Doing
That's awesome.
absolutely nothing has been pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about a topic that me and you talk a lot. Mostly like just between you and I, and it's a topic of people are getting started, right? And then obviously we always mention that one of the best ways to get started is to you know reaching out to brands and kind of like you know it's there's nothing wrong about doing stuff or two for free,
Yeah.
but once you've been in a while like in a while in the industry, and then you keep doing these shoots for free, and how it can really hurt our industry, right?
Mhm.
And we see some of that happening, and some people don't understand like why it could be it could be bad for the industry. I'm not talking about specific somebody in the content creation, like a content creator. I'm talking about brands too, trying to take advantage of some people that do photography, right? Just because of, yeah, we'll give you some exposure, we'll tag you and all that. So I really wanted to talk about that. And you're somebody that, you've talked about in your IG too. So tell me your thoughts about it.
So, I would be a liar if I said I didn't do anything for free in the beginning, right?
We
Like,
all
'cause
did.
everyone has done that. Like, there's
Yeah.
anybody that says they haven't done it doesn't make is a liar. But I want to say the first year that I did, like whatever from 2017 to 2018, I just wanted to break even, right? So if I bought a camera, I was going to do enough that would help pay for that camera, right? So, you know, whether it was doing little gigs here and there or whatever, I love the days when I used to get excited for something that was 150 bucks, right? Like I remember how I would get excited. Oh man, look, it's this is gonna be sick, amazing, right? So those are good times, but things change when you start realizing that you need to spend on more things. But reaching out to brands isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? I think it's also how you reach out and like how many people you reach out to, right? Because this CrossFit community is so small, right? If you reach out to like every single brand, like we're all going to eventually know what's going on. Um, but at the time, the way that I actually got a hold of brands was actually through the athlete. I didn't, I very rarely and on certain occasions would reach out to the brand because I just felt like, okay, they might already have their own media team or somebody that they have on staff. So if I, let's just say here, I don't know, Michelle. Let's just use Michelle as an example. If I shoot Michelle and she's working with X brand, X like 4 brands, and she really enjoyed the shoot with me and enjoyed the time with me, then the next time, because I'm local to her, will tell the brand, hey, look, like, can I do a shoot with him instead because he's local to me? I had a really good time. I like the images. So then that's how I kind of was involved. And that's how it worked out for me, at least, was just building a relationship with the athletes. A lot of them became my friends, right? People that I started talking to very, very often and that I still shoot with or still use or, vice versa. Or let's say they're no longer with a brand and I already have a connection with somebody else. Hey, look, I got this brand. Do you want to work with them? All right, great. So at least for me, like there's people that reach out to a bunch of brands and it works for them. For me, it wasn't really like that. Most of the time, when I was starting out, when I would reach out to a brand, I wouldn't get a message back. I would just, okay, well, they didn't message me back. I'm going to do something else. I got other stuff to do. I need to find another avenue. And that's kind of what I did. Other people had great success just reaching out to brands. I never got that. I mean, I did have one time where I reached out to a brand in 2018. And then 3 years later, I got a response back. Oh, yeah, we just saw this message. We'd love to use you, blah, blah. And I'm like, I mean, a little too late now. Like,
Yeah. Now that you have more followers.
yeah, I think I don't even remember. I think I might have even put a price on at the time in 2018. And I was like, I just hope that you know that this message that you read before isn't the same, right?
3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's few things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I was referring more, it's like brands trying to use content for free, because I see it a lot, and sometimes it happens to me too. Which at the beginning, like 2019, when I see a brand, I'm not gonna mention any brands, like repost my stuff, I'll be kind of like, well, oh, that's cool, like they're using my stuff.
Yeah.
But now I see it in a completely different way. I see it like they're using my, I mean, you can call it art, you can call it skills, you can call it whatever you want, but they're using your property or your art for their benefit, and you're not getting anything in return. If the return that you want, it's a tag, like that's just kind of like setting yourself for failure, or just setting yourself very low, because at the end of the day, that's like, it's your work. And if you think about it and everything else, that's just not how it should work. And I feel like brands are getting very comfortable at using pictures that are on social media, and they're like, oh yeah, look, this person's using our belt, I'm just gonna use it. And I've seen my stuff in like, dude, in high, like, I don't know, like big scale advertising stuff that I'm like, what the heck? I don't even know like this brand. Like I've never talked to anybody from this brand.
Yeah, it's usually
And
the bigger brands that can kind of get away with it because, especially, I mean, it might not work with you and I anymore, but like, let's just say that there's someone that has great work and great talent, but they don't necessarily have a bigger following, so they don't necessarily have as much confidence to go up to a brand and say, "Hey, look, like, what are you going to do with this image?" Right?
mm,
Um, so I remember way back when I started getting reposted by stuff. I think it was like one of these brands like just constantly started using my things, and I think for me at least, what wasn't bothering me was them like reposting my stuff, but when they reposted one of my images and it had like a oh buy here, like the little tag that kind of pops up if you were to tap on an image. Um, that's probably what bothered me more was because now you took an image that I'm working hard on for free and you could have potentially made $1,000 on just that one image, depending on if that
yeah.
company wanted to buy anything. Um, how to approach a company with someone like that is a little difficult, right? Because you want to work with them in the future, but you don't want to, but you also want to get like your respect as well. I would just say, kind of write an email, say, I mean, there's sometimes where like I was just in a mood and I said, here's an invoice for this image, right? Just because I was in a bad mood or something like that, and that's how quickly you get it taken down because they don't want to pay for it, right? Um, but most times, if you were to say, "Hey, look, I saw you use my image on this whatever post or whatever. Um, I'd like to work with you in the future. Maybe it could be something that we can make it reoccurring." And then a lot of the time, oh, thank you for the image. That's usually how they respond. Thank you for the image, or we love your work. Well, let's talk. So, sometimes it does work in your favor, but you just have to approach it a certain way. But
Yeah.
now, like in your case, if people are using this in large scale and start like blowing this up, then you really got to take the more aggressive approach because at that point they've already made X amount of money on your one image that they keep on blowing it up.
Yeah. And that's the way I see it too. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I mean, not even like asking, like, hey, can we use this photo? Just like out there.
Yeah,
But and it kind of goes back to what Torin said on the last episode.
yeah,
There's some people that like that that go to these competitions to create and to show their art, like their passion. There's some people that go there pretty much just to like, get the followers, the likes, and just be around the environment, right?
right.
And I feel like that kind of creators kind of like what changed the industry to be kind of like what it is today. Like a lot of like just trying to get as many likes and followers as possible, and kind of like say, hey, if I have this amount of followers, like I'm better than you and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I
which
don't necessarily think like
and you say it all the time. Followers don't equal to
correct,
money,
correct.
right?
That's the thing. Like we have a sense of, hey, followers gives me a reputation that people are going to take me serious. But at the end of the day, like you realize when you look at your insights and then you see, oh, okay, 90% of my audience is male. What, like, who are your followers really, right? Um, but yeah, followers clearly doesn't translate to money. It would be a huge thing if we got like 1 cent per follower, paid by Instagram every single month, right? Then we'd all be freaking happy and we wouldn't have to have other jobs, right? We'd always just be making money. Um, but yeah, I mean, when I go to competitions, I go there to work, I do my thing, you do your thing, you do whatever you have to do. Like everyone has their assignment and have to do their job. If there are people that are going there just because they want to try to get a following, I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to learn really quickly that it's not going to grow into something except just your Instagram, right? You're going to still be in the same spot as you were, but just with 20,000 more followers, you know? Um, but I want to say, like, we are, for the most part, we stop time. And the reason why we stop time is because we capture whatever moment, or most of us will capture whatever moment that we need to, that is going to create a memory, or someone later on in a year or so is going to look at that photo and know exactly how they felt when they saw this happen live or whatever. So that's the type of stuff that you really can't replicate. And no amount of followers is going to be able to give you that type of feeling, right? Is if you're able to create a moment that everyone's going to love forever, the followers don't really don't matter, right? So
True.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I agree. I understand what you're saying. We have a question by Enrique that
Oh,
kind of like brings back to where you were talking about, like reaching out to athletes and businesses. He says, how do you approach the athletes without looking sketchy, weird?
I don't know, Enrique. How do you approach normal people without looking sketchy or weird?
Hey,
You
that's
just,
a good answer.
you know,
Just be
like,
respectful.
yeah, just like, I don't know, just don't be like, hey, you want to shoot? Like, just, hey, here's a couple images of my work. I'd love to work with you in the future, this and that. Like, if you come up to someone acting like you're their friend right off the bat, everyone's kind of gonna push back a little bit. If
Mhm.
you come up to someone, just say, hey, look, um, I'm so and so. I know that you're like, let's just say in Florida. Hey, I'm Renato. I'm local to South Florida. I know you're kind of down here or whatever. Here's a couple of pieces of my work. I'd love to work with you sometime. And if they respond, great. If they don't don't keep on messaging, because I can assure you, like, you're going to be talking to yourself for a long time. Just work with somebody else, deal with it, and then it'll eventually come back.
Yeah, just kind of like try to be respectful, professional,
Exactly.
and kind of like create that. I always like to um, just kind of like like trying to answer as many questions as they will have without then asking me. So like if I reach out to somebody and they obviously like they'll probably want to see my portfolio,
Yeah.
they want to know where I'm from if they have to like fly me somewhere. So that's kind of like the way I start. And then I don't know. I guess yeah, just that's a way. Wait, what he says? You told me. Oh, is that with you? He said you told me I was weird when I approached you.
Yeah, because I think out of nowhere, I think I remember he approached me at the games, and like he just came up and he's like, "Hey, how are you?" I was like, "Hey, what's up?" Like he didn't even say his name. Like
Yeah.
I think the only reason why I knew who he was is because he had a hat on with a logo that wasn't even his Instagram. It was like his other page,
Mm,
and I had to kind of figure out, oh wait, it was from this other page, and this is the same guy, and that's how I knew it was him.
yeah.
So
Such a good guy. I love Enrique.
yeah. So Enrique, don't do that again. Say your name next time.
Jordan says, for someone who is a bit isolated in my area where I don't have access to brands or athletes, what do you recommend to try to show my skill set and create a business?
Does it always have to be CrossFit, right? Because while I post CrossFit all the time, I do a bunch of other work. I just don't post it. It's just something I don't do. So if you're talking about creating a business in general, it doesn't have to be isolated to one genre, right? I mean, you shoot weddings,
Mm-hmm.
so now, if you're trying to, like I said, if you're trying to really just stick to the CrossFit business and CrossFit athletes, um, if you don't currently have access, make access. Like I said, it's a simple message in a DM, right? Like that's easy. Anyone can do it. Um, and you can do that for brands, athletes, whoever, right? So, like I said, you could be isolated all you want, but you're only isolated because you let yourself be that way. So, you can easily branch out. That's how I started doing it. Like I said, I would branch out to athletes. I would just message them a DM, and like I said, if they answered, great. If not, I'll talk to somebody else. Like it is what it is.
Yeah. One of the things that I had a really hard time at the beginning is like obviously being scared of like of rejection. Like, yeah, no, like we don't want to work with you. Um, but at the end of the day, like it's not even that important, right? Like you wanna take the shot and see if it's gonna work out. The moment I start like seeing it with a different perspective, like I mean, at the end of the day, in my mind, I was like, if they don't want to work with me, it's their loss, you know. So
Exactly.
kind of like just approach it with a different perspective, just with a little more confidence, just being like, I know I can create value for you and for your brand. And, you know, if you don't want to see the value behind it, it's kind of like, you know, it is what it is, but
Yeah.
I know more opportunities are going to come. So I kind of like wouldn't affect me as much the moment I change the perspective.
And that's kind of the mentality that everyone should probably have, because at the end of the day, and I heard this line before, like with no content, there's no story,
Yeah.
right? So without us, unless they want to just post iPhone photos all the time, they don't have anything, right? So you got to really put yourself in the position that like you are what is going to help them build a brand or a persona if it's a different specific athlete. Um, so yeah, that mentality is the best way to kind of go about things. And yeah, rejection kind of sucks, especially if it's somebody that you really want to work with. But at the end of the day, like then if you have, if you really want to be a type of way, go to the brand of the competitor, and if they hire you, then guess what? You're going to make them look good, and they're going to see it.
And
You know, it
we
just
create,
depends how you want to do it.
yeah, we create so much value too for brands. Like that's what um, content creators got to understand, that without people like us, they wouldn't be what they are, especially nowadays, like 2022. Everything evolves around social media and like the content that they're going to put out there.
Yeah,
So that's like the perspective you got to approach brands. It's like they should be happy that somebody like you're approaching them. It shouldn't be like, oh, I hope that they're gonna, give me this chance. It'll be like, I know I can help you, and
yep.
I know it's gonna be such a asset for you.
Yeah, especially if you show up and kind of say, "Here, look, this is my portfolio." Think of it as like a resume. Here, this is
Yeah.
my portfolio. This is what I can do. This is what I can do for your brand. Let me know when you need me. And then just kind of, like I said, you can do that to multiple brands. Like I said, my approach was always kind of go through the athlete, because I've always kind of understood, like if a brand really likes you, they'll reach out to you. But if they're kind of unsure because they already have someone else or they don't necessarily have a specific person, they'll always take the word of someone that they trust, right? I
True.
mean,
Yeah.
you work for Mayhem, right? So if Rich says, I really worked with this guy, I like to use him, you're only going to use him. And let's just say whatever, another person from Mayhem and they're in another country, I want to use this photographer or whatever, guess what? He's going to get hired instead of like flying and spending all the money to send somebody over. So, like I said, I always took the approach to the athlete,
Yeah.
because it just kind of worked out that way. Because I knew I wasn't going to make anything weird. I was going to just do my work. They were going to get plenty of content. I was going to be able to have plenty of content. I knew everyone's going to be happy. And from there, like I said, if you have a good experience, you're always going to keep using that person. And I mean, think about any product, right? Think about how many times you hate American Airlines, right? If you could, you would not use them because of all the experiences that you have, but sometimes you don't have a choice. But
True.
you use a product or you use a brand because of the experience you have with them. And if they give you a bad experience, you try to use them as little as possible.
Yeah. True. And talking about experience, I feel like um, brands will use somebody that they feel like very comfortable working with them, somebody that gives them confidence, somebody that's
Yeah,
that's gonna be also nice to the athletes. It at the end of the day, like, yes, your work obviously it matters a lot. Like if you have beautiful pictures or videos, like that matters a lot. But if you're not a good person and you approach the shoot and you can produce the best video ever, but
yeah.
if they had a bad experience with you,
Oh, never.
they're not gonna use you again. They'll
100%.
be like, I don't care who this guy is. Like he was being kind of like rude to the athletes. He was like rushing us and stuff. So that's kind of another thing I try to do. And for me, it comes kind of naturally because I'm just kind of like a very like easygoing person. But I always try to be very like understanding whenever they have to, like, hey, we might go a little bit over the time that we established. I don't know, it was going to be 2 hours. It might take another 30 minutes. Like, that's fine. I'm not going to
Yeah,
be the guy who'll be like, oh no, I'm going to invoice you another 30 minutes.
yeah,
If I see them trying to take advantage of it, that's completely different.
right.
But if it's somebody out of their control, I just try to be very understanding and just be like, very kind of like nice to them and create that relationship since the beginning. And then at the end of the day, whenever they're going to decide like, hey, who are we gonna hire for this next gig, they're probably gonna not think about that much about your work. I mean, they'll have it in their mind. They know you produce good stuff, but they'll be like, oh, this dude Renato or this dude Carlos, he was awesome to work with. Let's go with him. You know. So I
Yeah.
think it's as important as creating good content. It'll be also being a good person that
Yeah,
brands
at least
can
for me, I've
relate to.
always been kind of like the laid back when it comes to, shoots. Let's just say I quote a client, all right, it'll be a couple hours. And I even always write, I was like, hey, look, if it goes a little over, like it's not a big deal. We need to get the work done.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's fine. Once it starts getting an X amount of time is when we'll figure out something. But I've never really had the encounter unless it was my own fault as to why it would extend.
Yeah.
Right. Um, and again, I don't know how anybody else works, but some photographers do I'll give you 30 images or whatever. I don't really have like a minimum or a maximum. I'm just like, here, look, this is what we're gonna do with our time, and I'm just gonna kind of give you. If it becomes like 100 cool ass photos, great. We both won. You know what I mean? Everyone kind of wins. And sometimes giving a little bit more will have the brand more excited. So like, oh man, this guy is really like going above and beyond than what we're used to.
Mhm.
Why not keep using him?
Yeah. I remember one of the guys that was kind of like mentoring me when I was first starting. He said, always try to over deliver,
Oh
but
yeah,
but be conscious about the amount that you're over delivering. If you do, for example, you do a shoot with, I don't know, Noble, and they're like, yeah, we won 5 photos, and then you come to them and you give them, I don't know, 100 photos and then 2 videos that they were not expecting, and they're like, oh my god, thank you so much. But then they're gonna have that expectation for the next time, right? Like
yeah.
they'll be like, so he said, always try to over deliver, but be conscious about the amount that you're over delivering. Just try to go above and beyond, but don't get to the point that it's gonna be unreal expectations for the brand.
I forgot who. So I worked with a company once, and they said, "Hey, have this shoot with so and so, and then like we'll do 5 selects." And I said, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, we're only gonna pick 5." And I was like, "Okay." I mean, like, I'm just gonna give you a folder
Yeah,
with everything that we shoot. It's gonna be way more than 5 because like just only picking 5
it'll be
actually
so
freaks
hard.
me out, right? Like,
Yeah,
so you're just gonna have at it. And I think there was like whatever 50, 60 photos in there, and then they just kept on using me and they kept on recycling the stuff, and that was
yeah,
it. I couldn't imagine like like narrowing down all my stuff. And what you were kind of saying, like over deliver, like just shoot how you normally shoot,
mhm,
right? Like if you think about it too much, you're gonna give yourself too much pressure. Like just shoot how you normally shoot. Get what you think the brand is gonna like as if it's your own, right? Like if you treat the project as if you own the brand yourself and you know what product or product shots or types of shots that they're going to need, then it's going to be easy. It won't be that hard.
yeah. True, true. We have
Oh my
Mr.
god,
Alex
horse.
Roca, the saucy
Yeah,
photographer. He should change his IG.
yeah.
Let's talk about the now that Alex is here. Let's talk about the current content creation industry. I feel like we have a pretty cool crew, kind of
It's a fun
and
little group that we
yeah,
all got
and
great.
and I mentioned it probably in every other podcast that everybody that's in like the content creation industry, especially in CrossFit, like I feel like we have a good relation. We help each other. Um,
Yeah,
have you know I have some brands reach out to me, and then or even athletes like, hey, like, can you shoot this stuff for me? And then I'll be like, hey, I can't, but hey, here's this person that can like probably help you out. And it's very much like we don't see it as like competition, right? And I think
yeah.
it's pretty cool. And I mean, people are here in the chat, like Frank, Carly, Enrique, Jordan, like everybody just kind of like it's a pretty cool community.
Mhm. I think I think the reason we're like that is because we all respect each other, right? Because we all know like, hey, I'm not gonna really like do anything for proven because that's Carly's thing. You know what I mean? Like the same thing, if anybody needed anything or wanted to shoot for Innovate, like they would just ask me, because I would kind of, and I've hired other people before, right? If there was something that I couldn't reach or get to, I would say, hey, you're in this area, can you get so and so or whatever. So, and I think it's just a respect thing. I think we all kind of respect each other. And I think that's kind of where it starts, and that's why we're all so cool with each other. Alex shoots for whoever, I shoot for whoever, you shoot for whoever. We're not mixing anything, so there's no competition. I feel like it would be different if everyone was in a competition. Like if it was one of those things where we had to shoot the granted games and the best image wins, like X amount of brands, everyone would be hating each other, right?
Yeah.
But we all kind of just stay in our own little thing, do our stuff. And then we go upstairs and we start editing and we start talking BS, and then go back and work again, and everybody just does our thing. And then we enjoy each other's work when we start posting it after the fact. So I think it's more of a respect thing, and that's why we're all kind of good with each other.
I agree. I meant to ask you this at the beginning. One of the persons on the the Instagram story asked to, why Fury?
It was a high school nickname that kind of just stuck.
Is that it? I thought it was gonna be like a more exciting story.
The exciting part of this story is I wasn't necessarily the best person around. I had a short temper at the time, so that's where it came from, and that's where the nickname came from. But that's another life, right? Like I try not to get too upset anymore, and if I do, it's just like in my house. Right, that's it.
So that would be like what people call you, Fury?
Yeah, like no one actually calls me from my government name, Renato. No, it's super rare. There's some people that are like, oh, I only know you as Renato, I'm not calling you Fury. I said, okay, I don't care. And then some people will call me Fury, and they don't even know what my real name is. So it's funny, right, that people only get me by my Instagram name.
Yeah, I remember at the games, you were talking about that. People were like, "What's up, Fury? What's up?" You're like, nobody actually knows my name.
Yeah, no, nobody. Like, there's plenty of people that I know that I talk to constantly that they don't even, like, on their phone it says Fury, it doesn't say my name. Everything else, they only call me Fury. It's even in person, like, call me Fury. Yeah.
For me, it's like nobody can say my name right. It's different, They say Bone all the time.
Yeah, no.
Or like, Brown.
Is it Bowen or Bowen?
Yeah, it's Bowen.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I would just call you Carlos, because it's like as soon as you type your name, it says Carlos Bowen. And that's it. It's Carlos.
Funny is this Carly in the podcast, she said Bone. I'm like, oh my God. No, but she actually meant, like, she didn't know. And then we talk about it all the time, and she's so embarrassed about it. Tully Chapman, he says, this community has been incredible. I come from a coaching background, and so many people kept their knowledge guarded. Content creators have been so helpful and giving.
I want to say that type of helpful and giving thing is somewhat new, because when I was starting off, I didn't necessarily have a bunch of people to give me advice or anything like that. Like I said, my only kind of source or help was at the time like Ruel, which he was a buddy of mine. And everyone was before pretty guarded or whatever. I think this new wave of people are definitely a little bit more laid back. They're open to talking. You have podcasts like this, which, I mean, at the time, if they did have a podcast, I didn't know about it. But I feel like content podcasts are more often than they were in the past. Like I said, if, at least now, especially me, anybody that reaches out, like I try to help out, because I don't want, like I said, most of the time when I was starting off, I didn't really have help. So I would try to do whatever I could to either get help or watch hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos to try to figure out what I needed to do. But I wish I had help. But, like I said, anybody that does come to me for help, I try to help them, because that's not something I always had. So.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And in reality, any of the stuff that we can share, it's not like it's a secret. Like everything's out there. Like everything that I learned, I mean, not everything, but I guess most of the stuff that I've learned, it's on YouTube. It's nothing that, like I have to hide. Like, hey, how do you, I don't know what filters you have in your camera and stuff like that. I'm like like why I can share it, like I don't care. And I've had people ask me stuff about video, and then I answer their questions and they were like, oh wow, thank you so much for like sharing it, I didn't expect you to answer. I'm like, why? Like it's just so like
I
random, like
think
anybody could have. The only thing I won't share, it's when people are like, hey, can you send me those presets that you've been using for your photos? I'm like, I mean, honestly, it's something I've kind of like worked on, modified for years and years. It's not like it's an actual like preset that you can find. So it's kind of like my style, I feel like. So that's
yeah,
something I'm not gonna share because I don't want your photos to look similar to mine.
right. Everyone
Um,
has their own personality in their photos.
yeah, that's more of like a personality like type of thing. But and that's why I always joke whenever I post a picture of like my Lightroom, I will scratch like the settings mostly for fun because obviously the settings are not gonna tell you like how I'm like changing like the S curves or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but but yeah, that's the only thing I won't share. Other than that, like people can ask me anything you want, like
yeah.
videos, photos. I don't care, and I don't think anything that I do is something that other people cannot find online.
I think it was a month ago. I had someone message me in DM, and it was like they sent me my photo that I posted on Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, would you mind telling me like what the settings were for this?" And I went into like my Lightroom, and then I took a screenshot of the photo with all the settings that are on the side. You know, when you tap info,
Hmm.
I just sent it to him. I was like, "Look, this is it." Like, and there's plenty of times where I'm shooting and I don't even know what settings I'm on. I'm just kind of like playing with it until I get the shot, and
Yeah,
then I find out. That was the first time of me looking at the settings. I would just check before, but yeah, and I think they started off with, "Oh, like I don't want, don't be offended by me asking you this question." I was like, "You can ask me whatever you want, right? Like to ask me for settings isn't offensive." That
yeah,
kind of makes me sad that somebody else that they might have asked wasn't as friendly,
yeah.
right? So for them to
A-
start off with,
And
"Oh, I don't
it
want
ha-
to be offended or offensive," is like the bad part.
it happens too. There are some people, and I wouldn't say it's for being like oh like this guy's a dick or whatever. But I guess there's some people are just more guarded when it comes to like sharing their knowledge, or I don't know, who knows. But yeah, I'm pretty open to talk about anything when it comes to like the stuff that I do. We have Brian here. He says, despite not being a CrossFit photographer or even do CrossFit outside of my garage, the community is amazing. Everyone I've met along the way, they've been fantastic and so helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
True.
Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
true.
And in reality, like most of the content creators in CrossFit, um, that's how we like most of us. That's how we got started. Shooting at the gym, shooting CrossFit and stuff like that. And I don't remember who was talking about this in one of my previous episodes, but that's probably the reason why everybody's so like community friendly. Because I mean, we started doing
Yeah,
this in a CrossFit gym, right? And everybody in a CrossFit gym, like you're finishing last in the work, and everybody's like, "Let's go, Renato! Let's go, Carlos!"
oh,
So
I actually
probably
hate.
that's one of the reasons why, you know,
I would hate being last and then someone getting in my face though, because I'm just like, I understand that I'm last. I don't need you to let me
yeah,
know that I'm still last. But yeah, no, the community is great. Like it's always one of those things. And competitors will tell you the same thing. If they're like the last one in the heat, like they don't
they
want
hate
other
it. Yeah.
athletes coming up to them because they know that they're last.
Yeah, and they have cameras in front of them, so they
That
can't
too.
be like,
Yeah.
"Get the heck out of here," They just have to deal with it.
No, the community is great. Like I've never really had an issue with anybody. Uh, it's always been a good time. Everyone's kind of helpful. So,
For sure, for sure. I have a pretty deep question
oh
for
shit,
you.
what do we got?
How do you see yourself in 3 years from now? Or if not yourself, but like future photography in 3 years from now?
Um, I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because I can probably still do exactly what I'm doing. And maybe I grow, innovate to the point where I won't need a full time job. I'll just work for them and then do whatever extras, Fury, and be at events for innovate or whatever. That's kind of, I mean, if you want to say, hey, pick a future, like that'd probably be it. Like same way, like Rogue Fitness has that one guy that they always use, right? And he sends them to all, like that would probably be ideal,
Mm.
right? I love working for a bunch of brands, but it does take up a lot of my time. And at some point in the future, I'm not going to be shooting, or I might, whatever, do something else. Or like I said, if Innovate grows big enough, then, I'll be with them. So, but, I wish I knew like an answer or for that question, because I don't know. I'm so bouncing off to a bunch of different things that I don't necessarily have a full blown plan or goal, because I didn't even have a plan for this all to happen to begin with.
Yeah.
So I kind of just take it as it comes.
That's kind of why I asked, because somebody asked me yesterday the same question, and I was like put on the spot. I didn't know what to say. I was
Yeah.
like, 3 years from now, I don't know. I'm a pretty like present person. Like, yeah, I think about the future. Everything that I do, it's like, hey, I wanted to grow into something, but I live in the present a lot. Like, what am I gonna do today? To hopefully get to where I want to be in a couple of years. But it's so hard to answer that in 3 years from now. I have no idea.
Yeah, like
And
even if you asked yourself 3 years ago, where do you see yourself now? Would you have thought you're in this exact same place, or would this
yeah,
have been your goal? Probably
exactly.
not, because where you are, even though it is a pretty good goal, you didn't expect it to happen. It kind of just happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, true. Yeah. 2019. Yeah. I'll probably think about some completely different. And that
Yeah.
same person asked me, I don't remember exactly what was the question, but what would you change next year so it doesn't look like this year? And I was like, my mind was kind of like,
What?
yeah, it's kind of like, anyways, I understood the question, but it's kind of like, what would you change? What would you change so the future doesn't look like right now? And I was like, I probably wouldn't change anything
I was just
at
gonna
this
say,
moment.
like, I think I'm feeling pretty good
Yeah,
that, like, I
that's
wouldn't mind it keeping on going to next year, so that I don't necessarily would. I mean, maybe the only thing I would change is maybe like working less, right? And that's not even
mm,
working less from like innovator or photography standpoint. It's more just like in the whole grand scheme of things, like making more money but working less. Like that would
that's
be
what I would have answered last
yeah,
year in 2021. I feel
yeah,
like I worked myself to a point I was like close to burnout, and I feel like this year I've gotten to the point that I know how to handle time and my decision saying yes or no to clients. It's a lot better, and also finding the balance with life, because at the end of the day, like when you work so much, then you always want to make sure your health is fine, your you know everything. It's
yeah.
got to be a good balance.
Also, I wanted to make it super clear. I'm super offended that you're wearing a Noble shirt.
A what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I mean, are you gonna send me a Fury photography shirt?
No,
Because I'll
because
wear it.
you could have worn some from Target. I don't care. No,
Oh
I'm just
yeah,
messing with you,
like
bro.
that's like competition type, dude.
No,
I mean,
I was just messing with you
yeah, I know.
because I
Um,
noticed and I was like, this bitch is wearing a Noble shirt.
Yeah, I try not to wear like the same shirts all the time. I feel like I wore like the same one for a couple of
Hmm.
episodes, and I was like, shit. Yeah, but hey, send me a Fury photography one. If we do part two, I'll wear it for sure.
Gotcha.
Eric sent me his Castaños shirt. I used it for the podcast. I
Dude, the thing
just
is, I had a bunch of shirts for Wadapalooza, and then they all went away, and then I didn't get any more, because the thing is, I did one of the things like, oh yeah, buy a shirt, and then everyone's like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy it, and then no one bought it. I'm like, dude, then what was the point
yeah,
of doing that?
I
So
have I have the stickers, Fury stickers, so I need the
yeah, no, the
shirt.
stickers do well. I love the stickers.
There's 0% chance Noble will ever hire
That's
Renato.
okay.
He
I'm
does.
cool
He
with that.
doesn't need Noble.
I'm totally cool with that.
Renato, let's talk about one more question before we cut it. We're right on an hour. Somebody's brand new in the CrossFit content creation industry. What will be the best advice that Fury Photography can tell them? Brand new. We're talking about they know how to use a camera, they know how to take photos, but they're new in the industry. They want to get more into it.
Just get into every gym possible, because just like I can go into one gym and have one setting, and I can go to another gym and have a completely different setting. Each gym has its own personality. So just practice and just have fun. That's the one thing. Just have a bunch of fun. shooting whatever the hell that you want. Because then once you perfect it and once brands take a look at it, then it's going to be all work, and then it's going to be all honing in and getting all the little things, the little details that you need on a business perspective. But if you're just starting out and you know how to shoot and you know what you're doing, just go and have fun. Go to a bunch of gyms. I can assure you there's not going to really be a gym that's going to deny you, right? And especially if you're going to go in there and say, hey, can I take a couple photos here? I'll let you have some. No one's going to deny you. So just, I feel like that's how you, like I said, with me, that's how I unknowingly built relationships with a bunch of gyms and gym owners. And that's how I like knew everyone in South Florida. And then that kind of just translated to everything else, and it was just really easy. That would probably be my best thing. Just go and shoot and have fun. Go to as many places as possible while you still can, because you might not have that same luxury if, later on in the future.
I agree. Yeah, great advice. Everybody that's listening, please make sure you like the video. Come on, everybody's every time we have good listeners, and then nobody's liking the video. And make sure you subscribe.
I can assure you it's probably like the least liked video that you probably have.
Nah, bro, come on. Everybody loves Fury.
Oh,
All right, Renato, we've been on for 1 hour, 1 minute, 27 seconds. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I know we've been talking about this episode for a while, but you're a busy person.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Thanks for having me on. Just let me know when you need me again, man.
Absolutely, dude. Everybody that's listening, make sure you like again the YouTube, follow the Instagram. It's at Content Lab Podcast. If you want to follow Renato, it's at Fury Photography. So make sure you give him a follow. If you like the episode, send him a DM and just talk to him about it. And Renato, before we cut it, what's next for Fury?
The games, right? Like that's like the next plan. I mean, aside from the games, there's probably like little things where I have to travel, but the games is the next big project. And finally, we're going to have a goddamn booth there. Innovate's going to have a booth.
So there you go.
For everyone here that is like, oh, I haven't tried the shoes on. Well, now there's no excuse, and I don't want to hear it anymore. So
yeah, use code Renato Fury 50 to get 50% off at the.
No, it's not even the correct one because I don't display it, but.
All right,
I do have one, but I don't talk about it.
Yeah, no. We'll just keep it between friends and family.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. We are I don't know if I'm gonna do another episode this week. I have a pretty busy week, but definitely next week. And maybe I'll have Renato again. We have a plan. We have a little kind of podcast episode kind of planned, but it'll be fun.
Well, you're talking about the one.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
okay.
That one.
That's what I was going to say. Just
okay, good. All right, everybody. Thanks you for listening.
Later.
I'll see you next time. Thank you, Renato. Appreciate you, man.